Since 2020, I have been under attack. I've been called a predator and all kinds of things based off of interactions with essentially two women and one in particular. In this video, I'm going to lay out the chats that I had with the main person in this story, as well as the other components that actually help inform it. I held off on telling this story for a long time because I wanted it to go away. I hope that reconciliation could be made, but now that I see that this is truly just something to exploit on my behalf so that they can make themselves feel better and play professional victims over and over again. I have been banned from Reddit forums where they don't credit me for my work, they just steal it now, and this is their justification. They go and whenever somebody follows me, they send them a DM and saying, hey, just so you know, he's a monster, pedophile predator. And they aren't stopping. And I think it's just time that I just throw the whole truth out there because it's a horrible, horrible, hurtful lie that hurts me and my family and my professional chances, and it needs to stop. I have edited out any third parties and anyone who isn't really involved in the story to protect them, and I have edited the phone conversation to only contain the core contents of it. In that conversation, Celine and I talked about doing a podcast and maybe doing some kind of healing here. But as of yesterday, we're right back to square one with Celine calling me a predator and mad that people are citing me for my hard and very solid work. I apologize for any inconsistency in audio quality. This has taken me a long time to get to and has been recorded in many different places throughout the last 2 years. I don't expect this to make anything better. I don't expect to win anyone back over, but I would rather unload the truth than let their distorted, perverted version of reality continue unchallenged.
In August or September of 2019, I got a message from Chris Sequel of Star Wars Underworld and his roommate Clarice saying that they're at Galaxy's Edge and we should meet up. And I was there with my kids. So we meet up, we do a Falcon ride, we get a photo. It was pretty basic. However, this is when I met Nicolette and we became friends there and on social media, and we DM'd a few times, and then she gave me her phone number. From that, flirtation ensued, and it wasn't really anything serious or even notable, to be honest with you. I don't want to get into the details because I don't think it's right or really anybody's business, but over the course of that time, she would send me photos of herself, and she called them lewds and not nudes, but, you know, I don't think I could post any of them because they're a little more than lewd at times. And that's why a lot of this was kind of a big confusing, like, what the fuck to me. If you're sending me pictures of your body entirely and your sex toys, I kind of feel like talking about sex is on the table. Now, by the time that Celine goes and character assassinates me later on, like in May, it was already a completely different situation between me and Nicolette. At that time, we had become friends. We had stopped all of the flirtation. All of that had ended. And in fact, when Celine went and put her stuff out without me even having to ask her, Nico went and started writing about it. However, Savannah Kiefer talked her out of it. She totally Uncle Owen'd me, telling her not to get involved and it's not going to matter. It actually would have mattered at the time because she was the one who they were claiming that I had done this egregious stuff with. So before Savannah talked her out of it, though, she had sent me what she was going to post so I could read it. A few things in it were, I think, misconstrued a little bit, and I wanted to change those things, but she later on claimed that I edited it so drastically that it wasn't the same thing, and that's why she didn't post it. But that was complete bullshit. It was because Savannah talked her out of it. But this is what she wrote. This is my side of the Celine story about Jason Ward. I'm the other girl she's referring to that was talking to Jason Ward. I was good friends with Chris Sequel since I was 16 or so, and I had never questioned our friendship ever until this happened. I had met Jason at Galaxy's Edge through Chris last summer. When we were all hanging out, he asked for all my socials when Chris's roommate Clarice had asked him for a follow or something. In my perspective, I saw it as him being polite. When Chris, Clarice, and I were walking to Disneyland a separate time, Chris and Clarice were talking about how Jason had broken up with his then girlfriend, and I made a joke that Jason would probably slide into my DMs soon. Well, that actually ended up happening. At first, Jason was very flirtatious, and I had sent screenshots to Chris and said, "I told you so." I'm assuming at this time, Jason was talking to Celine. Honestly, I had no idea who Celine was until months later. Jason had sent me leaks from Tross, and in turn, to further play with power, I sent him a lewd photo of my ass in underwear. Not nudes, so that's where Celine twists the story a bit. Jason never asked for this photo, and in my eyes, it was me testing the waters on what I could get out of Jason. So I sent the leaks to Chris in good faith he'd keep them to himself. I even asked him not to share them. For years, I had been friends with the Star Wars Underworld guys, and as time went on, I felt like they really didn't care about me and didn't see me as valuable to them. I wanted to write and to be more involved in their site and podcast, so I saw the opportunity with Jason to prove I was valuable to Chris. Chris seemed to be the one who saw leaks as valuable, so that's what I gave him. As time went on, Jason and I became friends. After that, Jason would call me all the time and we'd discuss life, and it was never anything sexual. In November, I went over to Chris and Clarice's apartment to hang out and watch Tross trailer. That evening, Chris told me that Jason was talking to several girls and asking to fly them out here. Chris made things seem different than what they actually were. I believed everything I was told because I trusted Chris, and I believed he wouldn't twist the truth just to fit his own agenda. Chris told me about Celine and asked me not to mention her to Jason, and I said okay, and that I wouldn't. Days go by and Jason tries talking to me, and I'm somebody who wants the truth always no matter what. I'm a Sagittarius, laugh out loud. So I confronted Jason on all the things I was told. Jason was confused, and rightfully so. I had to clarify with him the one name that was mentioned, Celine's. He then told me what was going on between them and sent me screenshots as proof. I wasn't Jason's girlfriend or wasn't interested in him in that way, so I couldn't be mad at what he was talking about with Celine. That was their business. I messaged Clarice and told her that Jason sent me the screenshots, and what was going on between them wasn't even close to my situation with Jason. Clarice asked for the screenshots, and I declined because it wasn't my place to share that. Clarice blocked me in turn for not bending to her will. I told Jason what happened, and he told me that they were trying to frame him for being a sexual predator. Weeks later, I find out that Chris was sharing my lewd photos with people without my consent, and that really shocked me. I couldn't believe it. When I asked him about it, he said he couldn't confirm or deny that. Excuse me, but what the fuck? Chris said his whole intention was to protect Celine and I. As Celine said in her thread, she didn't feel like there was anything wrong until Chris had something to say about it, and I could say the same. This whole situation is a mess, and I got dragged into it because Chris wanted me to be a pawn in a larger scheme to frame Jason. Personally, I don't see Jason as a sexual predator, as my best friend and I have gotten to know him and his family over the last 5 months. He has never treated us in such a manner. This is my version of the story, and would appreciate it if it was the last time I'm being brought into this. Like I said before, my situation with Jason isn't the same as Celine's, therefore I am not invalidating her feelings. I feel we're both just ping pong balls in a very intense ping pong match. Eventually, I have Nicolette and Celine talk, and Celine actually asked Nicolette not to say certain things that would shift the narrative, because for some reason they just decided that they really had to get me. Nicolette wasn't down with it, but as the pressure got to be too much, she just pretty much said fuck off, and then I didn't hear from her anymore. She saw some parts of my conversation with Celine where I was figuring out that Nicolette had fucked me over, and then to her that was like fresh news. She had no idea that this had happened, and then so I don't hear from her anymore. However, it should be noted that over the course of our friendship, Nicolette had this extreme hatred and bizarre fascination with Celine that she wouldn't let go. She would just constantly shit talk her, and she ended up admitting later on that she was jealous of Celine because the Star Wars Underworld people were all in love with her, according to Nicolette, and that everyone was talking to her, and she felt like she used to be the it girl and she no longer was. But there were times when Nicolette and I were hanging out and Celine would send me a message or heart something, and she would lean over my phone and look at it, and then it would set her off. So then Nicolette keeps complaining to Chris Sequel, who is then telling both of them whatever the fuck he wants to tell them. And then Celine hears that I'm telling everybody that she's in love with me. And that isn't true at all. That was all because Nicolette would see the hearts, and it was in emojis, and it's just fucking stupid. But it ultimately did end up leading to where I really did fuck up, where I did make a huge mistake. And that was when we were on Instagram and everybody was just playing around. Celine came up and I liked one of her pictures, and then her profile was open, and then I liked more. And I was doing it almost to troll Nicolette just because I was being an asshole and being stupid. But then it ends up coming right back around where Celine's like, oh, what the fuck is this? What is this guy doing? And then I'm like, fuck. And I know because Nicolette tells me through Chris Sequel again. And so I say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. It was a mistake. And then I panicked in the moment. And she's like, well, who was it? And then I made it sound like it was a friend of mine. And I didn't say his name. I said his initial, his first initial. And it was a stupid fucking candy ass mistake. And that's what I really regret. That's what I am the most embarrassed about. And that's what I wish I had never done. Of course, later on, Celine puts that out there, puts it right out there and says, how could you do this to him after the year that he had? Well, it's like, how could you fucking go and post it out publicly? You could have just told him, and you could have told me. Instead, you had to make a fucking show of it because that's what this is about. Anyways, to go back in the Nico situation a little bit, when her and I were talking, the source had reached out to me, and I was talking to that source, and I said, hey, just so you know, several people have given me one of the photos, or a few of the photos actually, that you gave me, but I can prove that they didn't come from me. The people who had sent them to me told me where they got them, how they got them, and when, and I was able to prove through a timeline kind of deal with the source that it wasn't me, and they were like, oops, and that was pretty much that. Now at that point, it was clear that the images were going to leak because I had a big YouTuber who was coming to me who wanted to post them. I had other smaller sites who had got it and were showing it to me, and it was completely out there. The image of Palpatine was out there. And I had already run a story on it, I believe, at this point. And once I ran that story, it confirmed to other people who had the image that it was real. So I sent that to Nicolette one night after she had sent me a bunch of, quote, lewd photos, but not in the sense that it was a transaction, because that would totally mischaracterize the time and space and the way that this happened. It was that we were having sexual conversations. I was out by the fire with a glass of wine one night, and I was probably trying to get her to come over, to be honest with you. And then it kind of just fizzled out. It didn't feel like it was really a thing. And we started talking about Star Wars. And then I was like, okay, cool, a Star Wars buddy. And then because she had already sent me what she had sent me, I really knew that I didn't believe she would fuck me over because I have fucking naked pictures of her. Like, why would she fuck me over? Like, this makes sense to me. Big, stupid miscalculation on my part, but what I made, nonetheless, that's my mistake. But just to be really clear, Star Wars spoilers, Star Wars pictures were never used as sexual or social currency in that way at all. It was because Nicolette had boasted that I had shown her something, that I had trusted her to Chris Sequel, and he in turn wrapped it up into this nice little thing about, well, that's what it must be. And I don't know if the dude was fucking mad because I was talking to girls that, you know, he is friends with, that did he want them? I don't know. I could only guess. But he would later on go to talk about this reputation that I have, this reputation, and it's fucking bullshit. There was no reputation until you made this into a thing. I had a reputation of being an asshole, of just telling people to fuck off if they have a problem with something, because it's their fucking problem, not mine. That said, everything that he's fucking saying, that he's pushing, is a fucking figment of his fucking very small imagination. But what I do have is 2 women talking to me, reporting back to the same fucking dude. Do the math. So anyways, after all of this drama, me and Nicolette talk, we fucking squash it, any misunderstandings, and it just seems like, hey, okay, that's that. But this girl had wanted to be sexy, she wanted to use her body to get information out of me, she wanted to please her friends at the Star Wars underworld, and when it didn't really work too well on either side, then it fizzled out. But it didn't matter because Chris Sequel was able to go and take this information to Celine eventually to make it into a big drama. Now, to get to the Celine stuff, it's a big bummer, honestly, because I thought we were friends and we had some shared similar experiences and things that I thought were sort of unique, and I tried to be there for her, like, as a friend, and everything was pretty okay, honestly, until she went to LA. And when she went to LA, then she came back like hell bent on destroying me. It was fucking bizarre. It was like a complete switch. But she essentially stayed with Chris Sequel for a week and then was into taking me down. And later on, like, we ended up talking, and we were cool the whole time. And then we ended up after that point, we ended up talking, and she was like, okay, I guess I'm misunderstanding or something. But then about a few months later, I was like, I hadn't really been talking to her very much, and I was doing different things with my life by this point, and it was kind of post Rise of Skywalker. And she said something about how, like, the best boyfriend she ever had was like 50 years old or something like that. And I posted a picture of Baby Yoda waving at her because he's like 50 years old. And then she made it sound like I was waving at her like I'm 50 years old and I want to fuck her. And I'm not 50 years old, for the record. And it was just a really ridiculous, like, it was an excuse to go balls out against me. I don't know. Either she's really fucking stupid or it was an excuse. Either way, it's fucking stupid. But I'm just tired of the attention grab by @OceanCeline at my expense. You know, she's now claiming that she has these nightmares about me that she just woke up from. And it's just complete bullshit. After I write an article, you just woke up from a nightmare, and everybody's like, oh, Celine, God, I'm so sorry you have to go through this. But it's like, what the fuck did she have to go through? What? I'll gladly post the whole thing right here for you guys to, like, see, so you guys could sit there and read the whole fucking thing, and maybe someday you could tell me. The place where I fucked up in all of this was initially thinking that Celine was older. And in the conversation and in the chats with her, I act ignorant to the fact that she had been married. But I had known that she had been married because she was on social media before. and I had seen her on the internet before because I follow Star Wars hashtags. But my assumption was that she was like in her mid-20s. And that's one of the things that comes up is she says at one point, like, hey, yeah, you didn't want it out that you were talking to a young girl. It's like, I go out with a girl in her mid-20s. I go out with a girl in her mid-20s recently. I don't have any problem with that. I don't care if anybody has a problem with that. If we're just going out and it's a date and it's fun, I don't care if somebody's 25. We're not going to get engaged. I'm not going to marry a 25-year-old, but if we're just going out and having a good time, I don't really give a shit. So I thought that part was kind of weird. However, when Celine approaches me, she's already been drinking. She's already been posting stuff about her drinking and doing stuff. And so I assumed that she was older. But the whole time, Celine is an adult. Celine is not under 18. Celine's almost 21 when we are talking. And then she's also said things like, oh, when a girl laughs in private messages, it's because you're making her uncomfortable and she doesn't know what to do. You could see in the fucking chats that we had, that is not the case whatsoever. It's the most disingenuous fucking bullshit ever. But you know what she did do? Was she took our private conversations and she put them all out there and spiced them up creatively. And she even went and posted stuff about somebody who I used to date and their kinks and stuff. And I admittedly had a hard time with this person's like fetishes, and it was a lot for me. And I felt like, I don't know if post-traumatic stress is the way to put it, but I just felt a little bit like, wow, I don't know how to process this. And when I thought she was older, by the way, we talked about it, but she put it out there all in the open and did massive, massive damage to this person. And she has fucking clearly no regrets about it. But it's ultimately my fault for fucking trusting her. And it's ultimately my fault for thinking that she was somebody else who she's not. And it's ultimately my fault for trying to open up to somebody and to have a friend in this. I shouldn't have fucking done that. But the reason that I did do it was because I couldn't talk to my friends about it who might know this person. What if me and that girl got back together? What if we became friends? I didn't want to out anything about that person. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? But Celine seemed far away. There was no reason that she would do that, but that's exactly what she did. And now whenever I do anything, she acts like the fandom doesn't support her, but they should go support her fucking OnlyFans account. It's been made out that I preyed on Nicolette, but Nicolette in her own words fucking set that straight. Nicolette fucked me over and then we became friends. And then fucked me over again because there was too much pressure, which I understand. I really don't hold that against her. But this fucking Celine situation is just such fucking vitriol. It's just bullshit. I never even asked Celine for the fucking pictures that she gave me, as you'll see. I did make jokes about him. I did compliment her. As we were drinking, I told her that her body was good. And oops, her and I hang out, and we hang out for hours talking several different times. And on that one night, we were drinking, and then once again, what happens? She's sending screenshots of what we're saying to Chris Sequel. And then Chris Sequel and his roommate, Clarice, call me up, and I get this message from Clarice in my Facebook thing telling me I'm a predator and that I've done this before and I'll do it again. But the Chris Sequel one is the weirder one in the context of the time, because I don't really know what's going on that well about what's up for the most part. I don't really get what he's doing at this time. And he's calling me and he's just like, Jason, get off the internet and go to sleep. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? She is underage. And I'm like, she's not underage. And then she's like she even tells me in the chat that she was like fucking in Canada. And it's like legal age over there. So like nobody's even doing anything, and he's just fucking going ballistic. So after all of that, like her and I we talked the very next day, we continued talking. And we talked a lot after that, to be honest with you. And it wasn't sexual. It was just friendly. It was friends talking about Star Wars, waiting for The Mandalorian to come out. But in all of this, it's been made to sound like I'm preying on Celine. But number one, Celine was not an employee of mine. I didn't promise Celine anything. Celine didn't even listen to my podcast. I had no power over her. And when we talked, it was just casual. So number one, if I was her boss, if I was promising her something, if she had even had a fucking podcast at that point, maybe you can make the argument that it was wrong. But in the context of everything, I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. Now, I will say that looking back on it, I regret doing it at all because it opened up for this fucking crazy situation to even occur. And like, that's ultimately my fault. I just shouldn't really have personal conversations with anybody in the Star Wars community. I shouldn't have done it. And it was reckless of me. And I learned from that mistake, truly. But then to go back to their other thing, because they knew that what they had wasn't really super good, they tried to make it sound like I had hit on a 15-year-old girl. And if you compare my chat with the 15-year-old and my chat with Celine, who I think is in her mid-20s, it's night and day. And the 15-year-old messages me, and I just answer matter-of-factly. And what that 15-year-old had done was they had talked a bunch of shit on me on the internet because they were a Raylo. And when they saw that my shit was coming true and that I wasn't making it up, they DM'd me and they apologized to me. And I was like, wow, that's really big of you. That actually means a lot. And I was like, it's only happened a handful of times in all of the years I've been doing this that somebody's been shitty to me and then said, sorry. It's really rare, believe it or not. And as we were talking, I had the image of Palpatine. It was that day. And I went and I watermarked it. And I said, hey, don't show anybody, but, here's the Palpatine image. It's real. She was thankful. She graciously said thanks. She couldn't believe it. And she wanted to talk about it. And I really didn't have very much time to talk about it. So I really kind of didn't, honestly. And then later on, she would write me and tell me that her father was very sick with cancer and that she couldn't afford to get a ticket for The Rise of Skywalker. And I had told her that one of the big films ticketers gives me gift cards sometimes. They had for some of the films in the past. And I said, hey, if they give me one, I'll make sure to toss one your way so you can make sure you could see the film. Now, apparently, at some point, unbeknownst to me, I liked a picture of her on Instagram. I have no fucking idea. I didn't seek it out. I didn't look for her. I don't even know what she looks like. I don't even know what her name is. But I did this apparently. And probably because they hashtagged it Star Wars and I was trying to grow my Instagram at the time. So it's probably just that fucking stupid. But in the context of the argument that Celine was making, they used this 15-year-old girl as a pawn. They fucking used her emotions and they made it something that was completely fucking innocent into something that seems just fucking gross. And it reflects to me about how gross they are, because I would never fucking do that. And to try and pervert that into that is fucking sick. But through all of this, there's just been this whole agenda to make it look like I'm out there looking for drunk girls, when at the last few celebrations, I was the only person with a car. I picked up people from the airport and took them home, and I got drunk girls home from fucking celebration and dropped them off like a friend. And they're making it sound like I'm this complete like fucking monster just out there looking for drunk girls cruising. And it's just such fucking bullshit. It's fucking gross, and fuck them for that. And then to make things even worse, to compound everything, they go and they start digging into like old message board posts from a good, 10 years ago mostly. And it was from a message board that I was a part of like years ago, and that like I haven't been active at in years at all either. But during that time, it was like we talked about Star Wars, we talked about politics, and we talked about Howard Stern. And as you can see, Star Wars, politics, and Howard Stern is a fucking cyclone of fucking drama if you want to James Gunn the fuck out of somebody, which is what they're trying to do to me. One of the most egregious ones is a news story happened where the U.S. politician Rick Perry had a place called N-Word Head, and it was like a hunting ground kind of thing in the South, and they were justifying that name existing. They were justifying calling someplace N-Word Head. And to a friend on that message board who was having a child and trying to come up with a name, I said, well, why don't you just name your kid N-Word Head? But I didn't write N-Word Head. I actually wrote it out. And it didn't feel like I was saying it because I was writing it. It wasn't right. It's not even that funny. But they're misconstruing that to make it look like I'm saying this really horrible thing and that I'm this like KKK member. You know what I mean? It's just complete fucking bullshit. And it's because they don't understand the political backstory behind it, and that I shouldn't have said it, but at the same time, like, it's the complete opposite of my intention there. But they don't care because they don't really care about the truth. They just care about building a case to make somebody look really fucking bad and beat the shit out of them on the internet. Another funny thing is that, you know, my family is Christian and Jewish, okay? I don't really identify religiously with either. So, am I half Jewish? I don't know. The comedy is that Celine even says that she's half Jewish in her chat, but a couple of the critics on Twitter go around and say, you can't be half Jewish or whatever. And I'm just like, don't fucking tell me what I am or what I'm not. I don't even give a shit, really. But where I'm coming from on this is that there was this Howard Stern bit that would happen where Iron Sheik would come on and they would pretend like this one guy was another wrestler who would shit talk him and it would set him off. Well, that's when he calls the other wrestler a Jew, Faggot. And it was like not really that funny, but we thought the setting off of the Iron Sheik was funny. And at the time, I did think it was funny. I'm kind of over it now, but back then it was funny to me. It was a different time. That said, I made a reference to that in like 2013 maybe or something like that when JJ was very first brought aboard, and we had just watched the episode. The episode had just aired that day on Howard Stern, maybe on a replay, I'm not sure, but it had come on, and then I had said that I hoped that, you know, and I used Iron Sheik language to my friends, and I shouldn't have done that either, but once again, they're making it sound like I'm this homophobic, anti-Semitic fucking piece of shit. And it's just so fucking disingenuous. And I don't have control over that account anymore. I don't even know what's on that. Some of the screenshots that are out there are shit that I did say, and some of it is shit that I didn't say. And some of it's shit that's caught up into a word filter on that forum. Because, like, for instance, that forum was hacked one time by some white power dudes or some racist organization of some kind. And they wrote all this racist stuff everywhere with the N-word. And like we put a word filter on, and the word filter would change the N-word to successful African American. It made us laugh because it just subverted all of their bullshit. But I don't know if that word filter's in play or whatever, but I think that they might be using some of that fucking word filter shit against me in this day and age. And it's bullshit. It's not real. It's not how I feel. They're not my words. They're out of context. And most of all, like, even if that was true, if all of it's true, and I said all of those things back then, I clearly don't feel that way now. I clearly don't push any kind of agenda that's in those kinds of spaces. And I've been nothing but, hey, everybody be cool and inclusive. They were horrible jokes referencing the Howard Stern show years ago. And I wish I hadn't said those things, and I wish I hadn't posted them out where I wrote the word out directly. I wish I hadn't done that. Like, that was a fucking mistake. And I said I was sorry, but when I said I was sorry, they didn't care. When I told Celine that I was sorry, she didn't accept it. When I wrote a long response, a long, post saying, hey, I guess I was a creep because you feel this way, she didn't accept it. So I deleted that apology. And as time has gone on, it's been clear that she has no intention or any interest in there being any kind of reconciliation, or this being any kind of healing kind of situation. It's not about that. But if you look at that whole thing and then you see that and you go, oh, these things don't compute, well, they fucking don't. So that has been the story about how I was force canceled, if you will. And with that in mind, I'm going to now put the entire chat with Celine up, and it goes through. Like I said, I've only edited out phone numbers, ex-girlfriends, and things like that for people who have nothing to do with this, who just don't need fucking any of the shit splatter. And none of it is important either. None of it actually changes the point of the conversation or takes it into a different place. So enjoy reading what you were never supposed to see, but I have to share because they won't let it go and they want to misconstrue reality.
So this is where we begin with the chat. This is as far back as I could go in Twitter at this time. If you remember back earlier in the story, Nicolette is telling things to Chris Sequel, and it's getting back to Celine, and this is where the chat picks up. And this part right here is kind of funny because it's just completely bullshit. There's no real truth to this part right here at all. And then we're talking about the rumors that the Raylos are spreading about me being her uncle. And I'm just saying, yeah, just deny everything. Let's just not deal with these people at all because they're fucking crazy. And right here, you can see that she's confused because she's hearing things from Chris Sequel and she's hearing things from Nicolette to Chris Sequel that are making her confused. And right here you see that she admitted to me that she gave Chris Sequel the picture that she wasn't supposed to. That was not done in a transaction, but in a much different time. The same night, but not in the same conversation. You see, she wanted to paint the idea that her sex appeal was so high I was willing to give her all of the Star Wars spoilers I ever had. My assumption right here, I still believe, is pretty on. This is exactly what happened. And right here you can see that Chris Sequel is keeping names and facts secret to make everything more salacious, to manipulate her. So this is just me really having to deal with just generally stupid shit between a jealous girl and somebody who's being misinformed. But all of this stuff right here goes down, and it's just like, what the hell? And then me and Celine kind of squash it, and then we go on to talk for, I think, months. But when you hear the story, it makes it sound like it was one day of craziness. But Nicolette admits to me what she did, and she actually apologized to me at the time. And we put that all behind us, and that's kind of where we're at in the chat right now. But I guess Chris is going to call me. I didn't want to talk to him at that point after all of the shit that he had pulled. And right there, I deleted something to make her life easier. Boy, she would never do the same for me. That's for damn sure. But this is where we start off right here with all of the weird leaks and stuff like that. And, she's asking me about it. And usually she initiated our conversations. But right here, we just have somebody just making shit up. But we had to deal with a lot of these people spreading false rumors, and ultimately it lets all of this stuff really take off later on. And yeah, this was I was at a show, and was laughing about this performer's outfit, which was pretty outrageous. Not laughing at it, but I thought it was pretty good actually. Right here, we were talking about some music stuff that I was working on at the time. Pretty boring stuff. And then here we go. Calls me Uncle Jason. As you can see, I didn't start that. But I do make bad jokes. But who cares? But, I'm not really trying to come on to this person. We're just joking around. Where she talks about how she's part Jewish, but apparently you can't be part Jewish if you're me. But here we go, because Uncle MSW wants to make me happy. And here's where her phone goes to autocorrect that something about me when she means Jason Momoa. And then I make the uncle joke back that she had already been making. And I applied for Star Wars Celebration on a thing about how to spoil, which was just a dumb move as a joke. This is where she writes me and says that she's drinking, that she's having a party. And then, yeah. And we are just two people talking about our nights. Not really a lot to say about some little mistake that I made texting exes. And I make sure to talk about that, my exes, because I liked one a lot. And she's the one who brings up the kinky uncle stuff and about the things that she's doing that night. And, I just took it as we're just being silly, because that's what we were both being. When you get down to it, we were both just being outlandish and silly. She drops the maid thing to lay the bait for me, and I stupidly picked it up like a fool. But, anyways, I go on to talk about, make sure you drink some water. And she, of course, makes the Uncle Jason joke again, the one that I get branded with, even though we were both making the joke. But they're able to use that to further this weird agenda to make it sound like I'm the bad guy. Now, of course, I never should have even went in with this, but she was encouraging me to drink, and I was alone that night, and I was like, all right, let's have a couple drinks. Totally unprepared. I have to use Kool-Aid jammer. Pretty gross. And then here we just are a little bit buzzed and just being idiots. 12:44 a.m. And we're just making lame jokes about emojis. Pretty dumb. Sexual Intellectuals is my backing band for my first record, and she's referring to that. And I'm getting a little bit buzzed right here and just being really stupid. This is really cringy to read back, but it is what it is. Orange pop. But yeah, I mean, at this point, I haven't really drank very much in a long time. I drank a lot that week, though. And right here, I lie. I knew she had been married before, but I was recently single, and we were both going through divorces at the same time, and I can't lie. I kind of wanted to commiserate. And right here, some stuff I would rather you not know, but I guess you need to. And yeah, it was a bit of a difficult thing for me at that time. Like I said, I wish I had never talked to her about this or heard her stuff, but it was, I needed to talk to somebody about it who wasn't connected to anybody who I knew in real life. It was dumb. And that was definitely a mistake I made because I was drinking the vodka like a dummy. And right here, yeah, just was talking about things that go too far for me that I will not really successfully want to participate in. My limits, if you will. Right here, she's getting a little bit buzzed. Or drunk, I'd say. I'm getting really buzzed. And she's telling me not to be a pussy. She's telling me to drink more. And making fun of me for saying I never drink. And, you know, I'm an adult man, though, but at the same time, it wasn't like I was the one who was like, hey, drink, drink, drink. This really flows both ways, doesn't it? Just like alcohol. But here we are. Not my most shining moment, you guys. I can't lie. But it was no regrets. I'll say that much. But I am an idiot. Oh, well, hey, good for her, And then I was like, yeah, how do you drink this much? And she's like, I only drink vodka. So right here, I'm not thinking, oh, this person is only 20. She's been married and she's drinking. She just had a party at her own place. You kind of think she's like 25, 27, 30 years old, maybe even. But I thought she was like 25, to be honest with you. Here I share the story about the time I lit a trumpet on fire by pouring vodka and newspaper into it and lighting it on fire. But that was back in my old band days. And I say, oh shit, I shouldn't have complimented you. And she says she doesn't give a fuck. She's glad that people think she's hot. I would never touch somebody who was drunk, but complimenting when we're both drunk, yeah, I would. And I have. And there we go. But yeah, so right here, we're both starting to get the munchies. And I'll be honest with you, I actually do leave the house and walk to 7-Eleven during this chat. At one point, I was going to order Postmates, but I decided I'd just walk and get some air. But I don't Postmates it. We talk about it, but I don't do it. And then right here, I show her what I got left, and she makes fun of me for talking to her on a laptop. Ooh, so salacious. Can you guys believe this? Look at this predatory content, you guys. It's titillating. I don't actually know where I walked to 7-Eleven at what point, but it does happen. Here, you can see we're just making stupid, crass jokes, and if this was a come on, it would have been much different. There would have been dick pics sent. There would have been, we would have really, it would have really ramped up into something, and it only goes into these dumb fucking jokes because I'm not actually trying to seduce this person over the internet at a very far away distance. That just doesn't make any sense, does it? But hey, never let the truth get in the way of a good accusation, right? So, yeah, I'm just talking a little bit how the internet sucks. I was secret friends with people who I'm not friends with now because of this. They unfollowed even though they probably know it's bullshit, but whatever. And then right here, she sends me the first pictures of her that are public. And the pictures that she sends in private are pretty much that, just with people having written on her chest. It was nothing that notable. And yeah, it's like I said, what she sent me in private wasn't any different than what was sent was published in public for the most part. But I'm going to cut the actual photo here just out of respect for, she could share the picture if she wants to. And, what's on there is really what I'm showing there is what she's already shown in public, anyways. And right here, I just talk about how bad I am at being cool. And right here, we're just both two drunk idiots just commiserating about stupidity. And it just is what it is. And yeah, that's a story I'll share for another time, but it's this is just dumb. All of this is just dumb. And it's insane to watch this stuff subverted into being something so different. Right here, I'm starting to get pretty drunk and being like, we need to slow down. And I compliment her and make the uncle joke. Now, this was just taken right there out of context and posted to Twitter, I believe, by her. But she says she's glad. She thinks that I think she's hot. And yeah, like I said, wish I hadn't complimented her. Honestly, now I find her extremely the opposite after knowing her for a little while. But there we go. There we have it, right? As you can see, it's like 2:37 at night right here, and it's getting late. And I talk about how when I was in school, I used to get picked on for drinking wine coolers because I didn't like the beer. And right here, she talks about some stupid Rob Zombie tattoos. She talks about having a bad experience at a show. Sends me a public picture. I'm not going to bring that one down because it's public. And right here, I compliment her, but then I realize, shit, shouldn't have complimented her. And I talk about how I was checking out a girl I was seeing when I went to her show, but trying not to look too much. And I cut out her name right there. And right here, I talk about Nirvana because it's my favorite thing ever, besides Star Wars, probably, and Queen. But yeah, so we're just talking about music. And yeah, just cutting a little bit of the Nirvana stuff. It just kind of goes on, okay? Um, yeah, but we're just talking about music and you know what she's listening to, and we recommend some things to each other. And she recommends some music, and I talk about a poppy song I had heard early. She berates me for not drinking enough. And I think this is when I was at 7-Eleven. I feel like this is about my 7-Eleven time right here. I get drunk and then I go out for the walk. Talk about Star Wars Celebration. Wow, look at this predatory, sexy conversation. But yeah. But I do say that maids don't look like you here, and but it's true. I mean, they really don't. They're like grandmas here. But yeah, and then this is just really mundane, boring music talk, and really there's nothing missing here. I think I'm gonna remove the rest of this until we get to the next part. As you can see, the dumb jokes continue to fly as we are buzzed, and we talk about music. Wow, amazing. So it's I mean, it's just really not that interesting in conversation until Chris Sequel calls me, you know? And I talk about a friend texting me. I'm kind of really wanting to kind of go to bed at this point, to be honest with you, but you know, just I have the night off, and I've been working a lot at that time, so it's kind of like, I'm just gonna hang out some more. And then this is where he calls me. And this is because she was sending him all of our messages during it. Right there, that's Chris Sequel's roommate writing me what I talk about in the beginning. And I show it to her. She doesn't even know her. She never talked to that person. And then I'm like, they're acting like I'm this predator. As you could see from our conversation that we had been having, it was a bit weird when he called me because she was being very selective with what she sent. And right here she says that she's 20, but she's from Toronto, where it's legal to drink at 19. And I'm like, tell them. And she says she's sorry. And I'm just like, these fucking dorks. And she says, I'm sorry about all of this. She realizes that she fucked up. And she realizes how easy it is to capitalize on my low-level E-fame to make drama. I mean, our conversation is just fucking lewd, rude, but jokey. And he's telling me he's going to call the police and, publicly apologize. Of course, I would later on have to because they made it seem like it was something else other than what it really was. But that's the world we live in, you know. So she's like, I don't know what they're going on about, Even if I was completely sober, I would be confused. And then she's like, what sexual conversations? And I'm like, because we weren't really having sexual conversations about what we were gonna do to one another or anything like that. We were just simply joking around and talking about shit from life. And the irony is that she sent all of the stuff she did with Chris Sequel, and she sent Chris Sequel the same pictures, and they even talk about it. But I guess it's different when you're Chris Sequel, right? Because she basically right here talks about how she's sending him the same pictures. And later on, I call them nudes. And she's like, I never sent them nudes because she didn't. She sent them the same thing that she sent me. So, pretty fucking stupid, to say the least. These people are all garbage. But right there, she accidentally sent him some very revealing pictures during the party. Oh, really? Yeah, that's interesting. I guess he's the predator now. He said he deleted them. But, so, here we go. Yeah, on the phone, he sounded like a fucking maniac. She's 20 years old. And, I don't know what he thought, but based off of her curation of the conversation you've just been privy to, he clearly thought it was enough. Enough to go off the deep end. And she says she doesn't know why he's flipping out. At this point, I pretty much put two and two together, but I'm trying to maybe give her the benefit of the doubt, making more jokes. I'm all, did I encourage you to do it? Was it my idea? No. And then she says no. Because right there, I'm like, if I fucked up, tell me. And she's like, no. And I'm asking her not to give them screenshots because of what they would obviously do with it, which is what they've done with it. And so, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much where, really, at this point, the conversation really starts to it breaks down right here, and then we talk a few days later, and I check in with her, make sure she was okay and stuff like that, and you know, we everything's fine, and then she goes out to L.A. and she stays with Sequel, hangs out with a couple of my friend's ex-girlfriend who was never really a good friend with me, and then, oh, there we go. She flips hard and goes fucking crazy because she heard things. I try to recommend some positive people that might be good for her to know in the community, and stuff like that. And conversation is just so fucking lame and so bland, but they make it into such an interesting thing, don't they? But the conversation pretty much goes nowhere. By this time, I was back with my ex girlfriend, and I pulled away from talking about stuff other than the nights when The Mandalorian was on. We would kind of talk on those nights while we were waiting for it. And talks about how she lives in Peru or something. You know. I make it clear I'm going to see my ex girlfriend right then. We're close to getting back together, just to make it clear that, like, I wasn't trying to come on to her and all of that jazz. And yeah, and I just talk a little bit about why it broke down between her and I, how I put my friends first at that time. For as bad of a friend as I was at times, I was a good friend in some ways too. I'm both. I'm very human. But yeah, so dumb. And she asked me why I wear sunglasses, and I'm like, there you go. That's why. I mean, it's just laughable what this person has tried to turn these conversations into. It just really, truly is. I mean, it's fucking wild. So I'm like, okay, look, I'll wear my my reading glasses instead of my sunglasses. And she sends me her music. It sends me more music that she's done, and yeah, we're just talking about Star Wars. Like I said, this is all nothing. And then right here, she talks about how she met some really terrible guy, and it went really, really, really bad and south, and he was some kind of sadist or something. And I'm just, being like, hey, I hope you're okay. And then, try not to, dwell on it and try to learn from it, basically, And it sucks he was an asshole. And, from what she's saying, that was just kind of the conversation. She goes out to LA after this. I kind of got ahead of myself a few minutes ago. It's a little bit after this. And she just talks about her taste in men being shit, and you know, yeah. I mean, if the dude was a piece of shit, what can you do? You know what I mean? But I was trying to be a good friend to her. You know. Oh, here, look, we're talking about Christmas movies, guys. Look at this predatory action. You know, God, that all that talk about Christmas movies. Wow. She says she got recommendations. She makes fun of me for trying to be a vegetarian in Southern California. Right here, I just cut out a part where I was talking about the girl that I was seeing and going out and how it was going, and it had some private stuff that's just irrelevant. Um, yeah. As you can see, this is all just very just stupid Star Wars talk and, you know, talking about books and just stupid shit. Right here, I see where she talks about pregnancy loss, and I had gone through that, and I just was like, okay, here's a friend who has gone through the same thing that I went through, and it's really bad. And I tell her the whole story of the death of my daughter. You know, we had been talking long enough intermittently that I thought, okay, I will open up about this story that she didn't know about, and yeah, and I do, and I wish I hadn't talked to her about this now, because after talking to her about this, she decided that she would use me to garner e-fame by throwing hissy fits for attention. And yeah, and then I wished her Happy New Year, and then talks about how I got blocked, and then she goes to LA, and then she hears all these bad things, and she's like, I'm gonna out you. And yeah, it's just like, it's fucking wild, dude. I really still don't get it. But she's like, I don't want other people to get hurt. This is because she hangs out with Chris Sequel and my friend's ex-girlfriend, who, and it's just, and yeah, here she goes, and it's just like, cool. And it's just wild. So this is why I did the interview with Ethan Van Sciver. And yeah. And Nicolette brags that she got a Star Wars picture for me in a different conversation, and it took 3 nudes. And it's like, so was there nudes or not? You know what I'm saying? But once again, it's not fucking what happened. That's her bragging about getting something like she's some sort of spy who could get Star Wars pictures out of sex appeal, when we were having a Star Wars conversation on a completely different thing, different time. So yeah, good times. She feels used and lied to. It's like, what are you even talking about? And then this is where they start to cultivate this idea that I trade pictures and I defend misogynist and all of this stuff. And it was because they accused somebody of something really bad who didn't do it. And I clearly tell her, I'm like, it has nothing to do with whether he is or isn't, but about what he is. And I don't want to get into it. It's a side story, but this is just her, deciding that, I'm going to try and get ya. So, yeah. And yeah, I did what I did to protect my ex-wife at the time, and I would do it again. If anybody doesn't get it or like it, they can fucking suck it. And yeah, so here we go. And I'll say Ethan Van Sciver, for all of the drama I've ever had with him, is actually treated me with a little bit more class than either of these people ever have. So whatever your opinion is of him, think of it in that context from my point of view. And yeah, a competitor and a friend's ex-girlfriend who I couldn't stand had bad things to say about me. It must mean I'm the worst person ever. It's like, give me a fucking break. I won't lie. I have zero patience for fucking. I don't suffer fools lightly at times. I'd be rather impatient with idiots. But right here I have to cut out Nicolette's ass that Chris Siegel sent around to everybody to make me look bad, you know? And she released selective things from these chats to make me look bad, and now they go around and call me a predator and say I traded spoilers for pictures, which is all a lie and incorrect, as you can see.
I didn't want to destroy you.
But like the other day when I made a post, you're like, I'm having nightmares about what he did to me. Like, I didn't even do anything to you.
I didn't have a nightmare about what you did. I just had a nightmare about you in general. Well, I still felt uncomfortable and embarrassed, and I know that you didn't directly ask for it. It was the fact that you'd made, like, I think 2 or 3 comments about the pictures that I had mentioned. It made me feel pressured to send them, even though you didn't directly ask.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you felt any pressure, but I didn't directly ask, and I wasn't pressuring. Like, I wasn't seriously going for him.
I never called you a pedophile.
Yeah, but that was the narrative that was built with your indirect language. Indirectly stating things is how that happened, because they couldn't tell the difference between you, Nicolette, and a 15-year-old girl who was just fucking bugging me and I tried to fucking hook up, and then her father was fucking sick and I tried to do a favor for. And my interactions with her were no fucking different than with the other hundreds of DMs I get every day.
I know that it's probably, like, hard for you to believe, but I genuinely, like, I don't hate you, and I wasn't trying to hurt you. I think that we just had very different viewpoints on our friendship, and I think that you don't understand how there was, like, a power difference there because of your platform in the fandom, because of your connections and just what you do, and the fact that I was trying to start out in that.
But you weren't when we became friends. Like, when we first started talking, you didn't work for me, you didn't write for me, you didn't podcast, you didn't do anything, you didn't have a podcast. All of that came after.
That's not, it doesn't really factor in. I mean, like, not, like, the 15-year-old that you talk to,
mm-hmm.
they, for example, like, they talk to you because you have a big platform, and they, like, looked up to you and trusted you, and that you have clout, and that comes with responsibility. And I don't think that you realize that when you say something and you're just, maybe you are just trying to be nice.
I am. I was.
You know, 1,000 people. But when you have the platform that you do and the clout that you do, you have to realize the weight and the pressure that the other person feels when they read that.
I could see what you mean, but what I have is fucking nothing. At the time, I'm like 22,000 followers. It's like, and most of them are fucking dead accounts. It's not anything. And the 15-year-old didn't fucking believe in me at all. She was just like talking shit on me, like, hard, and then realized, oh shit, like this guy's reporting is true. And then was like, sorry. And I was like, wow, that's fucking big of you.
Once you know that it's true, that comes with weight. Like, that you have connection.
I could almost see where you're coming from, but you weren't asking for anything.
I don't have to be asked. I don't have to want anything. I just have to not want to piss you off. But that's the thing, is that when you feel pressured, you don't say something about it. Like, obviously Nicolette felt pressured. I felt pressured. You don't know if other women have.
I wasn't interested in using anything from my platform. I never gave anybody any spoilers as like a transaction. That never happened.
That's how Nicolette played it off. I mean, not how she did in public. You know, when afterwards she denied that.
Yeah.
That's how she played it off to Chris.
Right. But after she denied it, it was still pushed.
It doesn't help that I've been receiving a lot of anonymous messages and people, like, saying that you're spreading my pictures, or people subscribing to my OnlyFans and then acting like you or talking about you or telling me stuff about you, seeing my OnlyFans, and people finding my Reddit where I promote my OnlyFans and leaving horrible comments about you and how I look. I've been...
I'm sorry that happens.
We've both been harassed because of this, and I wish I'd never fucking said anything, because I had to delete basically every account but Twitter, and now I barely... Like, I used to post 1,000 tweets a day on Twitter.
Yeah.
And now I'll come on at, like, 1 in the morning and tweet a little bit when no one's awake. And I've completely, like, blocked my notifications because I just can't handle it anymore.
Right. But
if you post it, then all of that is just going to come back for both of us. It's gonna happen all over again. It's going to start from the beginning. Like, it's died down a little now. Mm-hmm. Like, it's still happening, but it's if you post that, it's going to be just like it was in the beginning. That bad.
Yeah, probably. The one thing I would have out of it is peace of mind that the truth is out there. That if somebody cares to fucking know exactly what happened and how it happened, then that would be there. But I don't want to do that. I don't want you as an enemy. I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to hurt myself, obviously. I just want all of the fucking stupid trash to fucking stop.
Well, I will stop tweeting about you. Like, I'd already decided that earlier this month or this week or whatever. Like, I'm done with it. I can't do this anymore. It fucking sucks. And that's why I reached out to you again.
And if you seriously thought that Yoda thing was me waving at you as if Baby Yoda was an avatar for me, that was never the fucking case.
Yeah, that's not how it came off. But I believe that that's what you meant. Like, yeah. I get it.
But anyways, sorry that I made the Baby Yoda joke so open-ended that you saw it that way. I only made the joke because you said you were dating like a guy that was the same age as Baby Yoda. So that was the only reason why I would have done that. And I know you said you understand, but I'm just, my intention was to make you laugh. It was never to hurt you. So, yeah.
I think no matter what I do, though, it's not gonna change anything. Like, I'll just start getting harassment from people saying that I'm sucking up to you, basically. You have so much, like, it's just been, like, different drama after different drama. And we would only be addressing this one thing. Like, it's not going to make the rest of it go away.
No, it wouldn't. But
and I don't even know if it can make this go away.
I mean, it would be really stupid for anybody to carry around as if there's a side to carry if there is no side to carry. I'm not trying to say we even should talk about it or we should do anything. I don't know if we should. I don't know if there's a right answer. A part of me feels like the bigger and the better thing is to squash it. I think that is ultimately always the better thing.
I really did try to be as fair to you as possible. And I didn't ever want to hurt you. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to happen again. That was my only thing, is that it wouldn't happen again. Like, that no one else would feel pressured.
If you had just talked to me about feeling pressured, that would have changed everything. If I had known that you felt pressured, in my reality, on my side of things, I was not pressuring you. I wasn't pushing for you to send me anything or for there to be anything like that. I wasn't pushing for it.
I mean, I am easily intimidated by any man because of my experiences. So it's not like it was just because of your follower count or like your verified mark, but it's just that those were things that added to what I already feel when talking with most men. And in the world that we live in, a lot of women feel that way. Right.
I understand. I could definitely empathize with why that is the case and why it's that way.
I didn't want someone else who wasn't me going further and doing things that they weren't comfortable with because they felt pressured.
I just wish you had said that to me.
Like, I can't, like, breathe online. I can't do anything. Every time I post about anything personal, people tie it back to you.
Yeah.
Anytime I post about Star Wars, people, they won't let it go, and I can't post anywhere. People always find my accounts. People keep trying to hack my accounts.
Same.
Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm tired because it's not supposed to feel like a job. Like, it's supposed to be something fun.
Yeah.
And it's not been fun all year.
I'm sorry from like the fucking bottom of my heart that I did not understand how you saw the situation or me or power in this instance, because when we were drinking and shooting the shit and making stupid jokes and sharing our music and that kind of shit like that, I felt like that ice was broken. And so I never even saw that as being there, and it was for you. And I couldn't see that.
Well, thank you for apologizing. I really, like, that's all that I wanted, was for you to understand that. And I'm sorry that it happened in this horrible way. Can I give you some advice, and you don't have to take it?
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm always open.
If you restarted your Twitter, I would say that most of the harassment against you would stop, because people would feel less threatened by you.
It won't. I don't think it's ever going to go away, but I would rather, if it exists, it exists on our terms with our atonement.
I don't want to say that I'm having trouble trusting you, but I am kind of having trouble, just because I wasn't expecting to have this type of conversation with you. And I know we're both still thinking about the podcast thing.
Yeah.
But if you decide you do want to do that, and I decide that I'm okay with it, it would be nice if before I went on the podcast, you could say something about, like, that people can stop harassing me.
If people are harassing you, I will say, I would gladly say something about that. And like, a lot of people think that, like, when I showed you stuff from the movie that I did show you, that I showed you in that moment, and like, that didn't happen either.
Well, I'd be happy to clear both of those things up.
Once again, I'm sorry that things went the way that they did.
I am too.
This has cost me my emotional health. This has cost me friends. This has cost me career opportunities. This has all been about very little in the end. And I just wanted to stop. And if this changed your mind about me, then thank you for listening. And if you said anything bad about me or whatever, water under the bridge. Thanks.